Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Prantara Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Srila Krishna Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Shri Rupa Shri Sanatan Bhattara Guna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasra Gunas Prabhu ki jai, Prem Seko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakun Narakun Giri Govardhan ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, O glorious assembled devotees, O glorious assembled devotees, O glorious assembled devotees, Gaura Premanandi Jai. So we are reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita on the Adi-lila chapter 8, verse 31. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda, 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 Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda, Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Verse 31. Chaitanya Nityanande Nahi Esaba Bichara Namalete Premedena Bahe Ashudara. Chaitanya Nityanande Nahi Esaba Bichara Namalete Premedena Bahe Ashudara. Chaitanya Nityanande Nahi Eshava Vichara Namalete Premedena Bahi Ashudara. Somebody else. Namelete Premedena Bhaya Shudara. Chaitanya Nityanande Nahi Shabhavichara Namalete Premedena Bhaya Shudara. Vaishnavis? Chaitanya Nityananda Hi Esha Vichara Namalete Premedena Bhaya Shudara. Yes. Chaitanya Nityananda, when chanting the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, Nahi, there are not Eshaba, all these Vichara, considerations, Nama, the holy name, Lete, simply by chanting, Prema, love of Godhead, Dena, they give, Bahe, there is a flow, Ashudara, tears in the eyes. This is translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. But if one only chants with some slight faith the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, very quickly he is cleansed of all offences. Thus, as soon as he chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he feels the ecstasy of love of God. Repeatedly, but if one only chants with some slight faith the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, very quickly he is cleansed of all offences. Thus, as soon as he chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he feels the ecstasy of love for God. Purport. It's a biggish purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks in this connection that if one takes shelter of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, follows their instructions to become more tolerant than the tree and humbler than the grass, and in this way chants the holy name of the Lord, very soon he achieves a platform of transcendental loving service to the Lord, and tears appear in his eyes. There are offences to be considered in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but there are no such considerations in chanting the names of Gaur, Nitai, Nanda. Therefore, if one chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra but his life is still full of sinful activities, it will be very difficult for him to achieve the platform of loving service to the Lord. But if, in spite of being an offender, one chants the holy names of Gaura and Nityananda, he is very quickly freed from the interactions of his offences. Therefore, one should first approach Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, or worship Guru Gauranga, and then come to the stage of worshipping Radha Krishna. In our Krishna consciousness movement, our students are first advised to worship Guru Gauranga, and then, when they are somewhat advanced, the Radha Krishna deity is installed and they are engaged in the worship of the Lord. One should first take shelter of Gaura Nityananda in order to reach ultimately Radha Krishna. Srila Narottam Das Thakur sings in this connection, Gauranga Balite Abe Pulaka Sarira, Hari Hari Balite Nayani Bae Nira, Ara Kabe Nita Chandera Karuna Aibe, Samsara Vasana Mora Kabe Tutshabe, Vichaya Chadiya Kabe Shuddha Abe Mana, Kabe Ama Era Bashri Vrindavana. In the beginning, one should very regularly chant Sri Gaura Sundar's holy name and then chant the holy names of Lord Nityananda. Thus one's heart will be cleansed of impure desires for material enjoyment. Then one can approach Vrindavan Dham to worship Lord Krishna. Unless one is favoured by Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, there is no need to go to Vrindavan. For unless one's mind is purified, he cannot see Vrindavan, even if he goes there. Actually, going to Vrindavan involves taking shelter of the 6 Goswamis by reading Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, and other books that they have given. In this way, one can understand the transcendental loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. Kave ama bhujaba se jugala piriti. The conjugal love between Radha and Krishna is not an ordinary human affair. It is fully transcendental. In order to understand Radha and Krishna worship them and engage in their loving service, one should be guided by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and the 6 Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya's direct disciples. For an ordinary man, worship of Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu or the Panchatattva is easier than worship of Radha and Krishna. Unless one is very fortunate, he should not be induced to worship Radha and Krishna directly. A neophyte student who is not sufficiently educated or enlightened should not indulge in the worship of Sri, Radha and Krishna or the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Even if he does so, he cannot get the desired result. One should therefore chant the names of Nitai Gaur and worship them without false prestige. Since everyone within this material world is more or less influenced by sinful activities, in the beginning it is essential that one take to the worship of Guru Gauranga and ask their favour, for thus, despite all these disqualifications, one will very soon become qualified to worship the Radha Krishna Vigraha. It should be noted in this connection that the holy names of Lord Krishna and Lord Gaurasundara are both identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one should not consider one name to be more potent than the other. Considering the position of the people in the age of this age, however, the chanting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name is more essential than the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most magnanimous incarnation and his mercy is very easily achieved. Therefore, must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. By serving Gaura Nityananda, one is freed from the entanglements of material existence, thus becomes qualified to worship the Radha Krishna deity. Translation again. But if one only chants with some slight faith the holy names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, very quickly he is cleansed of all offences. Thus, as soon as he chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he feels the ecstasy of love of God. I should just read that verse before to bring it back in context. Yesterday was about the offences and the anarthas. Just simply chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without offence vanquishes all sinful activities. Thus, pure devotional service. Oops, I skipped a page, I think. Excuse me. Verse 30. If one chants the exalted holy name of the Lord again and again, and yet his love for the Supreme Lord does not develop and tears do not appear in his eyes, it is evident that because of his offences in chanting, the seed of the holy name of Krishna does not sprout. So that's where we left off yesterday, but today is a little bit more enlivening. If we chant the names of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda with slight faith, very quickly we are cleansed of all our offences. So this Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita Srila Prabhupada has given us is sometimes described as a postgraduate study. Even when you read the Bhagavad Gita, which we somehow or other we describe as the ABC to spiritual life, but we find many devotees still struggle to fully grasp the Bhagavad Gita and study it properly. And it's considered the ABC. And there's Rajya, Vijaya, Rajya, Gudyam, Pavitram. That's the topmost king of all knowledge. It's the most secret of all secrets, very confidential knowledge that Krishna is giving. And then when we go into the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's even more confidential, more intimate knowledge given about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and devotional service, especially in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. And then when you in the CC, which we're now reading, even more intimate, very detailed, topmost spiritual information is given, more than can be imagined. Beyond, it's the top, very, and it's done through many conversations throughout the Chaitanya Charitamrita with exalted devotees. Krishna reveals, Lord Chaitanya reveals the highest truth of this Radha Krishna worship in the Goloka Vrindavan planet. So it's a long way to the top when you chant Hare Krishna, as they say. We've been given something with our qualification, and the hint is given here by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that actually it's not possible for Kali Yugites, fallen, uncultured people that have very bad habits and very little sense control and mind control to enter into the realm of the Radha Krishna worship, which is the highest form of spiritual devotional service that exists in the all of spiritual and material creation. There's nothing higher beyond this understanding. And somehow or other we're given this opportunity. We have a very, very merciful Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna wasn't as merciful, even though he's very, very merciful and very kind. He demanded surrender, and if we study his pastimes, he's surrounded with liberated souls, Nityasiddhas. Generally in Krishna's pastimes, in our realm here in Bhoma Vrindavan, when he comes to the material universes, there's generally three types of devotees. There's the Nityasiddha devotees. These are his eternal companions from the spiritual realm. They also come with him. And then there's the Sadhana Siddhis or the Kripa Siddhis. These are devotees that have come from the material realm but have become perfect. And they also enter those pastimes, and also demigods also come and assist. So generally three types of devotees. But they're all perfected beings in one sense, and the pastimes are enacted for the pleasure of the Lord. There's no going out in Sankirtan and knocking on people's doors in Krishna Lila. You don't see that. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a slightly different mood. It's Krishna himself, as mentioned here, non-different than Krishna, but he comes in the garb of a devotee himself. And he personally teaches how to worship Krishna, to become spiritually perfect in this age. He demonstrates himself, the activities for this age, for this Yuga Dharma of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Because we may read this purport and think maybe I'm chanting the wrong mantra, because it clearly says here that we should be chanting Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, doesn't it? If you read this purport on its own, you would just pick up your beads and start going Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda and chanting that on your beads. But this is why we have classes, I guess, and we have many purports, not just one purport. Otherwise, if you could easily grab a purport and make your own philosophy out of it, especially this purport. Srila Prabhupada was asked whether it's enough just to read his books, or should we also attend the classes? And he said, no, you have to attend the classes also. Because when we attend classes, we hear the same thing that we may read ourselves. When we read ourselves, we have our own take on it, sometimes our own concocted understanding, or not proper understanding, or limited understanding. But when we hear many classes from various devotees, then we may hear things from a slightly different perspective, and it may help us enlarge our own understanding, or have a deeper understanding. And because of the transcendental sound vibration, Vedic sound vibration reverberates, has very many layers of understanding, very deep layers, and we see that when we hear from advanced devotees and they read a purport, and there's things in that you never would have understood or read, even if you read it yourself. But they're able to extract deeper meanings, and we'll experience this ourselves. The more we read Srila Prabhupada books, the more that we practice. Every time we read these purports, and they become deeper, more incredible, ever fresh, and extremely wonderful. And because that's the nature of Krishna. Krishna is unlimited. So you can't say, I've read all the books, put them aside, what's next? You can't. That means you don't have proper understanding. Proper understanding is you keep diving deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's no limit. Krishna has no limit. So we're under the extreme mercy. This is our transcendental filter to being able to chant Hare Krishna. We have the merciful glances and shelter of Sri Sri Gaurnitai. In the morning when we pay obeisances, we always pay obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, the representative of Gaurnitai, and then Gaurnitai before we even look at or bow down to Radha and Krishna. That's a proper process. It's not possible to worship Radha Krishna unless you receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And it's not possible to receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya unless you receive the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And you can't get the mercy of Lord Nityananda unless you go and deliver the Jagai Madhais. So this is the Hare Krishna movement. It's about distributing Krishna to others in one form or another. And we explained this many times. We're a movement. It's not that everybody in the movement has to be out on the front line, which is what the front line is glorious, to be out there on Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution, knocking on doors. There's also these wonderful projects that we have here where people come to us. We don't have to go and knock on their door. They come and knock on our door, which is quite wonderful. So we have to, the gift that we've received, we have to very kindly give it to others, because it's a very rare gift. It can't be measured in any terms whatsoever, monetary, good luck, auspiciousness. But there's no language that can describe the mercy of Gaurnitai, because they're given the highest spiritual truth to the most unqualified people like that. And this is very special, very rare, because the Lord Chaitanya only comes once in a day, Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma's day is made up of 1,000 cycles of yugas. We're in Kali Yuga at the moment, 432,000 years, 5,000 years in. The 4 cycles combined, Satya, Treta, Dwapara and Kali, is 4.3 million years, times 1,000, 4.3 billion years. Then he takes rest for another 4.3 billion years. So it'll be 8.6 billion years for you to get another chance to receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So we'd have to be very foolish not to take it. Who wants to hang around for another 8.6 billion years, birth after birth, chewing the chewed, getting kicked by the asses, if you happen to be in an ass body, chasing sex life, or in another body? You're constantly being kicked, harassed by the material energy, frustrated by the gross and subtle bodies, by other living entities, by the workings of the demigods through floods and earthquakes and freezing cold weather like this morning, and all these torments that the conditioned soul has to undergo awaiting this opportunity. So Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity, and it would be a shame to not fully take it up, and it'd be a shame not to give it to others as much as we can to distribute it. It'd be quite miserly actually not to distribute it. So how do we get this mercy? What's the difference between Krishna and Lord Chaitanya? I heard Bhakti Purushottam Swami explain it very nicely many years ago, that when you have a king and he has his treasury, he's quite on guard. He actually keeps it locked and under guard, and he's attached to his accumulated wealth. He's fought for it, so he holds it very tightly. But when you have an intoxicated king and he happens to leave the treasury door open, then it's very easy to go in and take it. So we have an intoxicated God. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is intoxicated. What is he intoxicated on? Krishna Prem. He's come to taste his own love, which is an extraordinary concept, which you won't find in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Bhagavatam. This is what's introduced in the Chaitanya Caritamrita. And I apologise to new students, because we've gone from kindergarten to PhD in one day. But this is what's been given to us. So, and we even if we're in the kindergarten stage, like I consider myself, we're always beginning, because we've only got to examine our own selves very closely. We realise we're not very qualified, but still we're being given this. If someone gives you sometimes you can get an honorary degree, without even having to study or undergo all the exams and all the austerity. So, in a sense, that's what we've been given. We've been given an honorary entry into the postgraduate studies of the highest spiritual understanding that there is. And that's because we're very, very kind and merciful Lord, and as it's stated in this verse, but just by having a little faith in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, all our impediments and offences can be diminished very quickly, and we're enabled to continue to chant. Otherwise, why have we been able to chant for so long? If you consider, I can only speak for myself, but if we examine our attentiveness while chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, especially in japa. In Kirtan, we know it's quite absorbing and we all get caught up. But when you have to sit down on your own and chant Krishna's name very attentively, it's very difficult. It becomes very difficult. It takes some commitment and some energy and some concentration. And it's interesting because before most of us came to the Hare Krishna movement and started chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we didn't even realise we had a mind that sort of did what it does, it wandered off, and we thought we were the mind. So we went along with it. But when you chant Hare Krishna, you realise you're the soul and there's Krishna and there's this mind that bickering away on the side. I never thought it was actually a separate thing. We thought it was us. So we learned that also from the Gita, that the mind, the subtle body, is a separate covering to the soul. But to speak of the gross body, sometimes we can understand. If you kick your toe, you go, I kick my toe, and you go, well, it's just the body, and it's just the body's hurting, but I'm okay. But when the mind gets affected by emotions and depression and so many other things that go on with the mind, we tend to identify with that more. But it's actually not us either. It's also another subtle covering. So the soul is completely transcendental and is an eternal servant of Krishna. It's a spiritual entity. And Lord Chaitanya and his followers, or Prabhupada mentioned in the purport here, that his direct disciples, Sri Rupa, Sri Sanatana, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Prabhus, the 6 Goswamis, they've unravelled this deep science of bhakti rasa, this deep emotional bhakti, which is not found even in the Vaikuntha planets. It's only available in the higher realms of the spiritual world in Goloka Vrindavan. So they're giving us this. So again, difficult to understand, difficult to comprehend, but nevertheless it's been given to us. And I've given the example before. It's like a young child, somewhere or other, is given one of these very rare diamonds. I'm talking about the ones they have in museums are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. If you give it to a child that knows nothing about wealth or value, or what to speak of diamonds, you just chuck it in the Lego box, right, and play with it from time to time. No idea of the value. So we've been given this highest gift by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, specifically Srila Prabhupada, and we're still in the process of playing with our Legos and playing with the diamond at the same time, and slowly looking at the diamond more and more and starting to think, well, maybe I should ask somebody what this is. What is that? So this is why we have the devotees, we have the purports, is to find out what's been given to us. Because it's an interesting process. From day one, you walk in the temple and you're given the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, even to our guests. From day one, you're given this jewel before you're even instructed on what the jewel is, what it's all about. We go out in the street, we just give it. And we take, it's like going out with truckloads of billions of dollars, just giving it to people, you know. They maybe appreciate it a bit more perhaps because they can relate to it, but we're giving something more valuable, something that the material money can't purchase, that material qualifications can't get you. We're giving a process not to become just freed from material anxiety, material suffering, not just to become liberated, not just to realise we're the soul, but we're given a process which will enable us to reach the highest realms of the spiritual world and engage in a very wonderful, loving relationship with the Lord eternally, away from that. Because at the moment we've got to drag these bodies and mind around. In the spiritual world you don't have a mind or a body. It's just, can you imagine what it'd be like? Not having a mind and a body? It's a bit, maybe young people can't relate to it as much because the body's, what's wrong with the body? It goes pretty well. I can jump and run and do all sorts of things. I like this body. But as the body ages, it's a bit of a drag. It just doesn't function the same. You want it to function, like you want to jump in Kirtan, but nothing happens. The springs are gone. And so what we have to do when you have your body doesn't work, you have to in your mind, you have to dance in your mind. Dance in your mind, which is sort of nice also, but it's good if you had a bit of a spring goes, and we know the rest of it, you know, I've said how many times a 6-pack becomes a 1-pack and everything starts to drop. It just doesn't work anymore. And it's great that we shave up because there's nothing to shave up after a while anyway. So we're very fortunate there. Actually we shave up to show that we're not going bald. Sometimes I think that's why I shave up, to make it look like I've got hair, but it's just shaved. So we have these things, but in spiritual you don't have that. You have unlimited ability to experience ecstasy and perform devotional services, no limits, and you have absolute freedom. We think we have freedom in this world. We don't have freedom at all in this world. We're governed. We're entrapped in bodies. We're governed by the modes of material nature. We're impelled by our karma, our sinful reactions. We're actually in prison. We're in prison. We can't do what we want. In the spiritual world, you have no limitations. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. There's only, like I said before, there's only one thing that underlines this, is you have very deep love for the Lord, so you tend to want to do everything for the pleasure of the Lord. But otherwise you can do, we read in the Bhagavatam, there's the Vishnu Dutas, they're in and out, they're coming in and out of the spiritual universes. But what are they doing there? They're there to assist, they're there, they go to where people are chanting the holy name. They're actually our guardian angels. We may not see them, but they're there. And we see in the life of Ajamil, when he called out Narayan, even though he wasn't attentively, he was calling out the name of his son Narayan at the time of death. The Vishnu Dutas were there instantly, and they were there, and they protected him from the Yamadutas who were about to drag him off because he had a life full of sinful activity. Even though he was born in the pious Brahmin family, he fell down and became very corrupt. And all these things are noted. Our sinful activities are noted. And then the Yamadutas, they see the notes and they come and take you to get your punishment. But because he took shelter of the holy name even unknowingly, the Vishnudutas are there. So Vishnudutas are there for all of us. Anytime we call the holy name, they'll be there in a flash to protect us from all sorts of horrible things. So we're very, very blessed. We're under the shelter of Gora and Nitya and the Panchatattva. We should never forget that we can just chant Hare Krishna freely and just go and walk in the temple room, see Radha and Krishna. How are you, Radha Krishna? It's not like that at all. We're under the constant shelter and mercy of Guru Garanga, always. And that's our access and qualification. Otherwise we have zero qualification, in fact. So we're very, very fortunate by chanting the names of Gora and Nitya, we're able to accelerate our spiritual progress, and be able to hang in there. They're our glue, they're our shelter. So we should always remember that, take shelter of them, chant, and this purport indicates we should be chanting the Panchatattva. It's not that we chant it all day long, but that we've also been instructed to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra by Gauranga Mahaprabhu, by our spiritual masters, by our parampara. So we chant it. Even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they chant the name Hari often, right? Hari, Hari. And I think, and we don't chant Hari, Hari, but this morning we're singing, we chant Hari Bol, which means, Bol means to chant Hari, so we chant Hari Bol. So we do chant Hari, but we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Yeah, we're very, very blessed. Time is running away, and I've yapped on a lot. And this Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is an ocean of transcendental mercy. And gradually, if you haven't read it, get to it and read it many, many times over. It's so wonderful. And also the Chaitanya Bhagavatam should be read also very carefully. So if anyone wants to comment, criticise, or critique, correct, ask a question. You got a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the class. It's something that Srila Prabhupada says that strikes me very much, is the fact that how we emphasize the names of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda before we attempt to chant the Mahamantra Hare Krishna. When we joined the movement, we've been told that, of course, we have to chant the names of HG Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda, and HG Krishna before we chant the Mahamantra. But now that I'm reading this verse, I can see that the importance of chanting the names of Gauranga and Nityananda before we attempt the chanting of the mantra. But when we go out in the streets, we chant basically the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, and that's what we say to people when they just join, to chant the Mahamantra Hare Krishna. And now that I'm reading through you, this verse, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita is considered the cream of the Vedic knowledge. Would not be better to teach to people these things rather than to go straight into the Mahamantra? This is something that I have a little bit of doubt.
Interesting. Yeah. This purport would bring that question to mind. Why don't we just chant the Panchatattva mantra? Why don't we just chant that alone? You could say. But this is Lord Chaitanya instructed us to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But we have to have this conviction, understanding our heart that we're receiving it through the Panchatattva, through Gaurnitai, the mercy is coming. And yes, we should, when we go to Harinam, before we chant the Maha Mantra, probably should chant the Panchatattva mantra first for the benefits of the devotees and others hearing. But even the chanting Panchatattva in between rounds, even Srila Prabhupada chanted the Panchatattva Maha Mantra just at the start of his japa, not all the way, not other times. Sometimes we chant in between rounds, but Srila Prabhupada didn't do that. That doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's generally done just before you chant your rounds. It's like a meditation. You chant the Panchatattva, you understand their mercy, and by their grace you're able to chant the Maha Mantra. You acknowledge that in your heart very clearly in your meditation, and then you go ahead and chant with that understanding. So, like I said, we give people the mantra and we give them the jewel when they first come in, and we tell them all about it after. So it seems that it's the way we do it. And Srila Prabhupada also did that. He got people chanting Hare Krishna. And then when Prabhupada came to the West, people didn't know about Lord Chaitanya. Few knew about Krishna. Even in India, not many people. What to speak of Lord Nityananda, no one knows about Lord. So Prabhupada focused on he called it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, but it's actually Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So Prabhupada also, you could say, did a little bit that way. He slowly introduced the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and it's a very rare concept because he's also a hidden incarnation. So even amongst the Vaishnavas and Hindus, they don't accept Lord Chaitanya, not all of them. So It's only through Lord Chaitanya. So you have to have that understanding. And yes, we should chant. That's why we greet each other. We go Hari Bol. We go Gauranga. You know? We should always chant the names of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, because they're very, very merciful, merciful lords. You know, they, especially Lord Nityananda. When Srila Prabhupada was in Bombay, he received a phone call from Calcutta that one of his disciples, very early disciples, was committing some fall down activities. I think he was taking drugs or something like that. And Srila Prabhupada heard, and he said, "You tell this person, you tell him, I don't know his name. You tell this devotee that he must immediately stop, otherwise I will reject him. Otherwise I will reject him." So then the phone hung up. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was with Prabhupada at the time. He said, "Would you really reject him, Srila Prabhupada?" He said, "No, I cannot reject anybody." And he said, "Well, not anybody? How about, isn't anything they could do where you would reject them?" And then he said, and I'm slightly paraphrasing, but you'll get the gist of it. He said that it's not possible to go beneath the mercy of Lord Nityananda. In other words, you can't escape it. Nothing you can do where you will not be able to get Lord Nityananda's mercy. So it's very important that we understand this, because this is our entry to Krishna consciousness. We've got these very merciful lords that you can't escape from. They're so kind. Even if you don't, I remember even when I was not wanting to be a devotee, they kept putting me in places where I bumped into devotees. You know, one time my friends took me to a Hare Krishna temple or Kola River. I didn't want to get out of the car. I didn't want to see these people, you know. And I didn't want to, and they wanted to give me food. I didn't want to eat it. And one devotee came knocking on the window with a cup of drink, because he's obviously trying to give me. I said no. So get me out of here. And then some or other, you know, weeks later, we would come out to camp at the same place we camped, and I couldn't. And that place was full. I was there with my friend. We couldn't find anywhere to camp. We're driving around, and he said we should ask the Hare Krishna. I said no, I'm not asking those freaks. And we kept driving, and it was getting late. And we realised we had to go to the Hare Krishnas. I couldn't believe it. I had to go to the Haris to camp. And then we went on there, and they said, "You got it." And then it was Joe Dharma came, and we bumped into him. "So can we camp on your land?" And he immediately laid the 4 regulative principles on us: no meat eating, no gambling. And it was fine because we're vegetarians. It was me and my friend. We weren't gay, so there was no illicit sex. I'd given up intoxication at the age of 16. There was no drugs. And what was the other one? Gambling. We said no worries. And we drove as far as we could onto the property till we'd reached the boundary corner, and we stayed there, you know. And they did tell us to come up for Sunday feast, which I didn't want to go. I didn't want to meet these people, but you know, we out of obligation for them kindly letting us stay there, we popped up for Sunday feast and had some Radha Gopinath Mahaprasad. Man, it was good. It was so good. It was so good, but I was a renounced yogi. I had to control my senses. And they wanted to give me seconds and thirds. I said, no, it's okay, it's enough. But inside of me, I just wanted to eat the whole bucket. It was so good, so wonderful. On the way out, I said, the next day, I knocked on the door, said, thank you. And they said, hang on. This guy disappears and gives me a whole bunch of books. And he goes, I said, for free? He said, yes, if you read them. I said, for free, I'll read them. Anyway, the story continues, and very shortly I became a devotee, even though I didn't want to become a devotee or even meet the devotees. So this is the mercy of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even if you don't want it, you'll get it. You can't escape. It's just a matter of time. I think we're out of time. And thank you very much for staying awake. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaura Premananda.